Hi, I'm Jeff Gonzales, president of Trident Concepts, and today I'm here with CCW Safe to talk to you about my new book, The Concealed Carry Manual. Today's chapter is going to be about the draw stroke. One of my favorite topics to talk about is getting the firearm from our holster and into the fight. So let's talk about that. First, there's going to be some sort of stimulus to response scenario here. That stimulus is going to be that you recognize that deadly force justification has been met, and your response is going to be to draw the firearm from your holster and get it into that fight. So whatever that stimulus response scenario is going to be, you got to make sure that you really understand deadly force and when the use of deadly force is justified. So after that, let's talk about how we actually make the draw stroke work, how it happens. I really encourage everybody that's learning to start by reverse engineering the draw stroke. And what that means is that I'm going to start with the firearm on target. So when I'm on target, everything is lined up perfectly. My fingers on the trigger, my sights are aligned. I'm not pulling the trigger, but I'm just on the trigger ready to go. And then from here, I need to go ahead and move to the next position. That next position is what we call ready. And it's basically a ready position. So from the target, I'm going to come to the ready position. Now when I do this, I want to make sure that my finger moves to the home position, and then I'm right here with my forearms against my body, weapon systems horizontal to the ground. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to rep this out. So I'm going to go from ready to target, back to ready, to target, back to ready. So you're going to want to do that several times. After that, the next thing is going to be to go from the ready to what we call our contact position. Right? Contact position is going to be from the ready position to this position right here. So both hands are going to kind of come back against my body and separate. And I want to keep my thumb nice and high. I want to actually kind of hook it against my pec muscle. And then from here, I want to make sure that my muzzle is pointed at the target. It's not pointed in another direction. This is going to provide us the opportunity to engage a target from that close contact scenario should we have to. Now, from this position, we're going to move into the holster. So I'll go back into the holster. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rep out each of these steps kind of like back to back. So I'll start from the target to the ready, target to the ready, from ready to contact, back to ready, back to contact, from contact to the holster, back to the contact, back to the holster. And I want to just rep that out, but I've kind of reverse engineered that in this manner to kind of keep things nice and smooth. Now, the next thing that we talk about is going to be, these are progressions, and the progressions are designed to do several things. Number one, do it correctly, because what you don't want to do is do something wrong and eventually down the road after several repetitions have to correct it, right? So the first progression that we start with is basically the simplest and the easiest and safest one to do, which is going to be strong side, hip, open carry. Now the reason we do that is because as we're learning this draw stroke, there are several things that we want to be paying attention to. When we add a complexity such as defeating the covered garment, it can add some risks that maybe we're not quite ready to take on at that time. As we get more comfortable with our draw stroke, then we start to introduce new variables, one of which being concealed carry. So I like to start from open carry, strong side hip. It gives me the opportunity to kind of really rep that out. It gives me the opportunity to really develop good technique. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build the neural pathways that lead from the holster to the target in the most, with minimal movement and done as precisely as possible. So when you're working at doing this, we got to talk about speed. How fast do I want to practice at? Now you might think that you want to go fast, and yes, at some point that is correct. But the beginning stages, you need to go slow. Slow enough that you can actually feel your way through each of those steps, making sure that you're performing that step in isolation correctly or to a minimum standard. Then from there, you can start to accelerate to the point where you start to create errors. And as you start to create errors, you're going to want to slow down to the point where those errors start to resolve themselves, or you have to focus on resolving them as you start to pick up the speed. Eventually, you're going to move from that slow speed to half speed to full speed. But if you try to go fast in the early stages, what's going to happen is you're probably going to develop a technique that's got a lot of flaws and a lot of errors that eventually you're going to have to fix anyhow. So the next thing we talk about is defeat methodology. All right, I moved from open carry, now I want to go to concealed carry, pretty much as I am right now. And then you can do it one of two ways. You can go with a one-hand technique or a two-hand technique. My recommendation is to work a one-hand technique in the very beginning. If you're looking at most deadly force encounters, they're going to happen at close proximity, and I may need to save this weekend to do something. push somebody away, pull somebody in, hold myself, push myself, whatever the case might be. So this is kind of like a live hand I want to keep live. So when it comes to defeat methodology, what I want to do is I want to take my thumb and I want to go to a horizontal position. It's going to go horizontal to vertical. As soon as it goes horizontal to vertical, I'm just going to clear my cover garment in the webbing of my hand, bring it straight up to my pec region, grab the gun, and I'm following those steps that I went from the grip in the holster to the contact position to the ready position, and then finish up on target. Once I'm done, I want to go ahead and visually inspect to make sure my trigger finger is not in the trigger guard. I'm going to go ahead and grab my cover garment with my weak hand to clear the cover garment. I'm going to watch the gun all the way back into my holster, right? If you can practice that way, what's going to happen is you're going to eventually develop nice neural pathways that are smooth and efficient that with time will become fast. Because what we want to try to do is avoid errors. There are like 3 main errors that we see. Number 1 is a bad grip on the gun. You don't get a good grip because you really didn't practice getting a good grip. That's why reverse engineering is so important. If you reverse engineer, you start by understanding what a good grip means. Then you try to work for it. The second mistake that we see is when the gun does not come straight to the target. I move the gun out and then I have to move it up to the target. That's a huge waste of time. Anytime you're moving the firearm from the holster to the target, always ensure that you drive it straight to the target. And the third error is not mounting the firearm on the target with the sights aligned. Then I have to work at realigning my sights enough for the shot required, and that again is time consumption. You can't afford that. Right? So these are the 3 common errors that you want to try to avoid. You can avoid those errors by slowing things down, working in isolation, and developing your skills progressively to get to the point where you can start to hit the gas. All right, if you have questions or comments, please feel free to post them down below. If you want to learn more, check out the book, concealcarrymanual.com. Until then, I'm Jeff Gonzales. Take care and stay safe.